Howard Tremendous here. Got another book review for you. Today I've got one called Ancient Fangs Birth. It's book one of a series by a guy named Edmund A.M. Batara. I'm assuming I'm saying that right. Never met the guy, never talked to him, so that's how we're going to pronounce it today. It was published on May 26, 2019, so it just came out like a couple of days ago. Well, as of this recording. And it's about 223 pages long, and honestly, I was able to finish it in about a day, give or take. I mean, maybe 4 or 5 hours of reading, and it was enjoyable, to say the least. It's about vampires, in case you couldn't tell by the name. Definitely a fantasy book, but set in more modern times, I would say present day. It is about a guy named Jake who's a special forces, or well, he's out of the military now, but he's a special forces, Navy SEAL, Marine Force Recon. I mean, just he's all the different variations of special forces. And he's also a master of all trades. He's able to fight, he's able to do tactics, he's able to do electronics, he knows about computers, and it kind of starts off, he's a miserable wreck. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, he's a miserable wreck. The guy just came off of a divorce, lost his job, and he's drinking pretty heavily, doing some bar hopping, and next thing he knows, he gets accosted by a vampire, and things escalate from there. It's really a good story. I really enjoyed this book. It's not without its issues. The main character is literally Superman. He might not wear his underwear on the outside of his pants, and he doesn't wear a cape, but everything that's thrown at him is just he's able to get past it no problem. Fighting vampires, hacking into computers, the dark web, getting military gear, getting millions of dollars with really no repercussions. It's convenience for the sake of being convenient, and it irritates me a little bit. Also, this book is in desperate need of an editor, not because of typos or what's it called, spelling or anything like that, but just syntax and grammar. It's not great. It's a very hard. I don't want to say very hard. It's a hard read, but even with those complaints, I enjoyed this book. I'm actually looking forward to book two. I kid you not. And again, it's a self-published book, which is part of the criteria. And I really don't have a problem with that. I can push through stuff like that as long as the story is engaging. And the story is very engaging. What also helped me was I'm a bit of a role-playing geek. I don't like LARP or anything like that. Not that there's nothing wrong with that. That just sounds like way too much physical activity for me. But I do play the role-playing games. D&D, Warhammer, stuff like that. Shadowbane, all the good ones. And this one reminds me a lot of Vampire Requiem. And if soon as I started to make that connection, and that I was playing, or I was reading through a single player playthrough of a Vampire Requiem type campaign, it became a lot better. It started to make a lot more sense, and it really kind of did make sense. I think the writer might be one of those guys too. I'm guessing here. I have no way to prove that, but a lot of it, he talks about leveling up. He uses real lore, just like the RPG does, or just like the RP game does, where he's using like the leveling up and the different types of vampires and all that stuff, and it's really engaging. I really enjoyed being in this world and reading through the story and following Jake as he, goes through the series of events that he goes through in order to, survive in the world that he's becomes privy to, kind of by accident. It's interesting. It's a lot of fun. Also, with Jake being an ex-military individual, special forces guy, I like the military jargon. It's in there. Mr. Batara does get a lot of it right, and I appreciate that. The fact that the guy is able to get a hold of it so easily just because he has access to the dark web, irritates me a bit, but that is literally me nitpicking. That is literally me nitpicking. Other than that, the book is really fun to read through. I really enjoyed it, and I had trouble putting it down. I had to go out and run an errand, and I waited until I finished the book to do it because that's the kind of selfish bastard I am. But all in all, it's a really good read. I know I keep saying that, but it's true. Jake, the main character, after he's awakened, we'll say, to the fact that vampires exist and werewolves exist, and how the author depicts how they exist, what they eat, how they move around, how they work, in their caste system and everything. It's very, very immersive, and I really enjoyed it. Overall, I would give it a solid 4 stars out of 5. The only reason I don't give it 5 stars is because, like I said, it's a hard read. Syntax and grammar. If I found myself having to go back and reread a sentence in order to figure out what he was saying. He likes to reuse words a lot. For example, the Jake was very sleepy, and so he went to the bed where his sleepiness could be put to rest, and he would no longer be sleepy. I mean, it doesn't happen like every sentence, but it happens a lot. Not quite to that degree, but it's frustrating, and it reads hard. It's not a smooth read, if you know what I'm talking about. So that is my biggest complaint, and that's what stops me from giving it 5 stars. I can't recommend this book more, though. If you can get around that, if you can get your mind around that, and the fact that Jake is, well, for all intents and purposes, a Mary Sue, although he does have the background for some of it. I will give the author that. He does establish the character very well. He is still a Mary Sue. There's really nothing that he runs into that he can't handle. There's no real suspense. There's no worries or anything like that. He's invincible, and it's obvious really quick. So it's kind of frustrating in that aspect. I hope with book 2, the author throws more challenges at Jake, because I'd really like to see more drama, more suspense and stuff, especially when it comes to him fighting other vampires and other supernatural beings. But definitely an immersive story. Really, really enjoyed it. And like I said, 4 out of 5 solid stars. Really like this book. So that's going to do it for the non-spoiler review. If you're going to read this book, which I can't recommend hard enough, I would advise stopping, because once I get to the spoilers section, I am going to go all out, because I can't wait to talk about this book. So here comes the countdown. Okay, you're still here, so let's get to the spoilers. So, like I said, the book starts off, and Jake is an ex-Special Forces guy, and he's all the Special Forces. Navy SEAL, Marine Tech, Peeve, Rescue, Ranger. I think he was the Green Power Ranger. He's got all the clearances, all the stuff. He was just a badass, and I get it. When you're going to do a military member in your book, you want him to be all the badass. The problem is the author makes him so much of a badass that you really, like, why did he get out? He is having difficulties. He's definitely suffering from PTSD, and the author does a wonderful job of pointing that out. And he's also, kind of self-conscious about the fact that he is dangerous, that he does have PTSD tendencies and stuff like that. His wife left him right off the top. His wife leaves him for some other guy, leaves the state in order to basically empty their bank account and send him divorce paperwork. While he was off, he left work early to, I think, unauthorized, to sign his divorce paperwork. And in that 45 minutes he was gone, from the computer security firm that he was working with, somebody hacked into the company, and him and his whole team got fired. So the book starts off with him trying to drink those memories away. He jumps through like 3 different bars just trying to get messed up. And then he finds his way to a vampire bar. And it's kind of funny because he's drunk out of his mind. He's still semi-coherent, but he's pretty messed up. He goes into this bar, and a big bouncer is there, and the door is locked. He's pounding on the door, and he's like, "Let me in, I want a drink." And the bouncer's like, "Members only." And Jake literally is like, "Fuck that." And he pushes the door open, which throws the bouncer off, walks into this bar. The bouncer grabs him by the shoulder, and of course, since he's the Ninja Force Recon guy, he breaks the guy's fingers, like, just instinct kicked in and all the fingers are snapped. Corny, I know, but it's a vampire book and it's self-published, so I expect corny. And it's not terrible. It kind of makes you giggle a little bit. Like, okay, dude, Superman, got it. So he breaks the dude's fingers. The guy goes down like a sack of twigs, and he walks over to the bar. He's unmolested and starts drinking. The bartender just immediately gets him what he wants to drink, showing that the bartender might be a little clairvoyant, might be a little telepathic in a way, which is cool because it kind of follows the vampire requiem stories and stuff like that. And I like that role playing game. I do. So you start to get your vibes right there that something's off about this place. The owner comes over and he's your typical slick vampire. You know, he's the young guy that's wise beyond his looks, and he's real like car salesman slick. And he offers Jake, he talks to him for a minute, gives him a bunch of free drinks, tells him he drinks on the house, and to come by tomorrow to get a job because he's impressed with him, right? While they're talking, the badass vampire guy, the boss vampire guy, Daryl is what he calls himself, but you quickly find out his name is Darius. One of his fledgling vampire chicks come up, and of course she's your typical bombshell, and she starts, ooh, a pretty guy, and the vampire guy doesn't like that. Basically, tells her hands off. Jake leaves after that because he's put off by the manager being kind of a dick to the girl. However, he does plan on coming back the next day to inquire about the job because he's currently unemployed. As he leaves the bar, who accosts him in the street, like in a back alley type of thing, but the girl that was ogling him a little bit. She uses the this mesmerization thing. Basically, she infatuates him with her vampiric aura. It's great because that's part of the game. And again, I don't know if this book is based off the game or if that's what the author was thinking, but that's how I associate the story, and so that's where I'm going with it. But anyway, the guy gets attacked by the vampire. After some no stuff, the guy gets attacked by the vampire, and she's playing with him. He's got some badass Turkish knives on him because of course he does. Convenience is convenient, and he's also, even though he's seriously drunk, he's able to fight off this vampire a little bit. He actually cuts her head off most of the way. She, of course, fixes herself because her head wasn't severed. And he's like, the fuck? It kind of sobers him up a little bit, like, oh, God. And his training kicks in or whatever, and he fights her, and he ends up being able to kill her. He ends up cutting her head off, and as soon as he cuts her head off, the bar he was in explodes. He wakes up in the garage that he was living in because he was currently homeless because of his ex-wife, and penniless also because of the ex-wife, and he's in his room, and he did get bit by that vampire chick before he cut her head off, so now he's infected, right? And the way the author explains the vampirism is that it's basically you're possessed by a fragment of a demon, and there's like 7 or 8 different demons that cause vampirism, and that's why there's different types of vampires, which I thought was a really cool aspect to the whole vampire lore. I like that. So anyway, somebody saved him, brought him back to his garage, left him there, put 10 grand under his pillow, and told him, get out of town, they're coming for you. Once they figure out you're a thing, they're going to destroy you because you're unsanctioned, right? You're a half-breed. You're not fully vampire yet. Think of yourself like Blade, okay? You're half human, half vampire, but you're not a daywalker. Although, since the strain in him is so weak, he can walk around as long as the sun isn't hitting him too hard. So, following the orders on the paperwork and everything like that, he decides, okay, I'm going to get out of here. And here's one of the issues I kind of have with the story. He remembers, like, the female vampire that bit him, she moved real fast. She kind of does that blur effect where she's able to just kind of move, kind of like the Flash. Well, he figures how to do that like in a minute. It takes him like 1 minute to figure out he can do that and how to do it. So that was a little irritating. But again, it's kind of like an RP thing. So sure, fine. He's able to figure all this stuff out. Again, Jake is Superman, so you kind of got to accept that, I guess, if you're going to read this book. So he flees the garage, he flees his buddy's house because he doesn't want his buddy or his wife to get hurt because of him. He ends up basically holing up in a storage unit. He uses the money to buy a bunch of stuff to like supplies from an army surplus store because, of course he would. And he decides that with his powers, He out of the 10 grand, he spends 4 grand to hide out. He decides 6 grand isn't going to be enough for him to lay low. So he goes that night on a recon mission to find a gang in the bad part of town and basically use his newfound powers to kill them all, steal $3 million from them and a handful of weapons. Again, convenience is convenient, and he gets through unscathed. Not one gang member or anything like that who is affiliated with this vampire guy. You find out the vampire group, Daryl, Darius, whatever you want to call him. None of them are able to lay a finger on him. And so he steals a whole bunch of money, goes back to the storage unit, finds out that the guy that left the note for him in the garage was at his storage unit. How he found him, you never really find out, but he was there. Again, convenience is convenient. The guy is able to leave another note for him saying, hey, come meet me here. Jake is a little pissed off because he's been compromised and the guy's found him, no problem. But Jake's got to get over himself. He goes to the place. He runs into the guy. They talk, and he kind of his name is Anton, and he's some kind of shadowy figure that has been hunting vampires. He's super ancient. You never really find out who Anton is exactly. He claims to be a half breed or alludes to being a half breed later in the book, but is what it is. Basically what he tells Jake is to lay low in this little area, in his sanctum or whatever, which is basically an off the books abandoned railway system. It's got like 3 rooms in it, and he goes, you need knowledge, you need to learn about your enemy and everything like that. I left a whole bunch of books and knowledge and stuff like that for you to study while I'm gone, because I gotta leave, I got other shit I gotta do. Read this stuff and lay low. Don't leave. Be cool, man. So Jake's like, yeah, whatever. I don't think you see that I wear my underwear on the outside. So after Anton leaves, Jake immediately devises this plan to take Darius down because the sons of bitches infected him with the vampire demon and he doesn't like it. So yeah, that's his thing. He's just pissed off because he's now a vampire and he doesn't want to be. I get that, but he really likes the powers. I can tell you that much because he exploits the hell out of them. So using his special ops training and everything like that, he goes out, gets a computer with the money because he stole $3 million and he still had 6 grand from Anton. He goes out, buys a whole bunch of computer stuff, a whole bunch of burner tablets, burner phones, all that crap that you see in a typical role-playing game. Comes home, uses his computer science knowledge. Again, this guy is Superman. He's a master of all trades. I shit you not. And he's able to take all the tracking software and all that other crap out of the computer and the tablets and everything like that. And he connects to the dark web because he knows how to do that. He's able to basically start buying up military grade gear where it's available. He makes all these weird vagaries about how he pays for it with cash and all this stuff, and he gets all this military grade gear delivered to a new storage unit out near his old storage unit that he was staying in before he stayed over at Anton's place, which he calls the hangar. It's like I said, convenience is convenient, but if you look at the book like you're watching like you're playing a role-playing game, then it makes sense. It actually does make sense. So that's the way I chose to read it, because the story itself is actually pretty engaging, and that's what really hooked me. So using all of this new equipment and stuff like that, he starts tracking down Darius's various cells and operations in the city, because he's in charge of this particular part of the city, which is a huge part of the role-playing game. So that's what kind of excited me about it. It was kind of neat reading a story based in this game. I think it's based in the game. There's nothing that says that it is, but I think it is. It feels like it is. Of course, he has no problem dealing with humans. His half-human status and the demon inside of him make it so that he's just going to eat them alive. And he does. And he does it in pretty gory fashion. Eventually, he runs into a couple of vampires that are stronger than him. He can sense they're stronger than him. But again, this guy is Superman. He literally flare guns a couple of them and cuts their heads off. It's not a difficult fight. It's not a prolonged fight. He kills them no problem. 2 vampires, both of which are more powerful than him, and he kills them no problem. Like I said, Jake is Superman, and he doesn't run into anything that daunts him in the slightest. After that, he drinks It's not blood. Vampires don't have blood. They've got some weird like black tarry liquid inside of them, and if he drinks that black tarry substance from a more powerful vampire, he levels up. That's literally what it's called inside the book. Again, one of the reasons I think this book is based off a really good role-playing game, Vampire Requiem. Anyway, so he eats this guy's blood, and since it was the same demon blood or whatever from the female vampire that turned him originally, it makes him stronger with that demon. It improves the demon inside of him, so it in turn improves all of his abilities, and he gains some new ones. So he uses all that to continue taking down Darius's organization. He has nothing but success. I don't mind telling you, until eventually he just gets so powerful. Not so powerful. I shouldn't say it like that, but he gets so overconfident that he decides to attack bigger and bigger operations of his, and he has a lot of success with that. And then eventually he decides to attack Darius himself. He does attack another guy named Marcus or however you want to pronounce it, but Marcus is like he's a super powerful vampire, but he's from a strain of demon that doesn't have their own house, their own caste, so he has allied himself to Darius. He's kind of like a protector, and I'm just going to let you know now, Marcus isn't really anything other than, I don't know, just like a plot advancer or something. I'm not 100% on it. I guess he's in book 2. He seems to be set up to be a bad guy in book 2. But at one point, Jake basically infiltrates Marcus's stronghold. No problem either. He does it without any real difficulty until he gets inside, and he gets basically leveled by Marcus's girlfriend. But of course, she isn't trying to kill Jake or stop Jake. She wants Jake to stop Marcus. No loyalty. Been with this guy for millennia, but she's sick of him, sick of life. She literally tells him, "You have to promise to kill me, and I'll give you everything that you need." And of course, Jake is like, all right, sure. So she literally ex machinas everything, gets him through all of Marcus's traps, gets him everything that he needs from Marcus, and then she gives him some of her blood so that he can drink it later and become super powerful, because she's a super powerful vampire. Not as strong as Marcus, but stronger than Darius, if that makes any sense, and that'll come into play later. He, of course, then kills her and blows up Marcus's stronghold with gasoline and diesel fuel. I know, convenience is convenient, but yeah, Jake is Superman. So after that, he's really confident. He knows they're all looking for him. He knows he's in a little bit of trouble. So he goes straight after Daryl's place. He's got a radio and stuff now. He knows they think that there's going to be a lull in the attacks. He knows that they don't realize it's just him. They think it's 3 different half-breeds, and they're calling them rogue vampires. Rogue half-breeds, whatever. Basically, the rogue is what they call him. It's just, it sounds cooler than that Jagoff. So anyway, he attacks Darius's stronghold, which is on top of this big fucking building, right? This hotel, I don't know, it's like, it takes him 4 hours basically to scale the building. He does it, he starts at night at around 8:30, and he scales the outside of the building without anybody noticing him, either inside the hotel or outside the hotel. Again, convenience is convenient, but it's a cool scene, and it is right out of the RP. I'm sorry, I'm a huge role-playing dork, and so this is probably one of the reasons that I enjoyed the book so much, even with the convenience. It sounds like a role-playing game to me. Everything about it, from the dark web to how he is just able to destroy everything. It's a role-playing game based out of Vampire Requiem with a really forgiving DM. So anyway, he gets up to the main building and gets attacked, or he doesn't get attacked, he gets accosted by a succubus. Yes, and it's as dirty as you think. It's a good dirty scene. I'm not going to lie to you, but after getting bonked in the head while him and the succubus are going at it, he kind of comes out of her fugue, which, again, convenience is convenient. It wouldn't quite work that way. But since I'm seeing it as a role-playing thing, I see it as the DM throwing him a bone, a chance to survive, because he knows the succubus is going to kill him after they're done doing their thing. So he's able to grab one of his slicing weapons, because of course he is, and he cuts her head off. And then right after that, he gets so overcome with the thirst, like for blood, that he just devours her. And that puts another demon into him. And the succubus demon is a lot more powerful than the demons that are currently in him from the vampire that bit him, and the vampire that he ate earlier. And so now he's got two demons in him, and since the succubus one is stronger, he's stronger. It's a little weird. It's a little left field, but I like where they're going with this one. He's gonna be like the Power Ranger that has all the belts. It's gonna be fun. So all super powered up and stuff like that. Pretty confident. He takes out a bunch of the other guards that are in Darius's stronghold. And of course, the man himself shows up after he beats all of his minions, because it's a boss fight, just like in an RP or a video game, however you want to see it. So he goes ahead and he fights Darius, and I like this part because they go back and forth a little bit, and he realizes, oh shit, Darius is a lot stronger than I am. I can't beat this guy. So he runs away. Darius, being really confident and stuff like that, and realizing, yes, he can't beat me, he lets Jake run away a little bit because he can't get away. There's really nowhere for him to go at the moment. Again, it'll be convenient in a minute. Remember earlier when I said how Marcus's girlfriend gave him some blood because she's more powerful than Darius but less powerful than Marcus? Well, she gave him some of her blood, and he took it with him for this fight, because of course he did, and decides to drink it now because he needs it. Now, here's my biggest problem with the book, other than the grammar and syntax stuff, because that is pretty bad, but this part is, in my opinion, some bullshit. Every time he'd been affected by a demon, whether he had it in him or not, it really incapacitated him. Like literally, with the succubus, he was out for 30 minutes before he woke up and and his body had acclimated to the new invader inside of him. When he drank the male vampire's blood in like earlier in the book, it incapacitated him. Not right away, but it incapacitated him for a while. When he drinks the female blood, the super powerful female blood, it doesn't incapacitate him at all. Everything just kind of works out, and he gets all the powers with none of the negligence. And he even writes in the book that he's like, well, I better drink it. I know it could incapacitate me, but I'll just have to risk it. And literally no ill side effects from this third demon entering his body. And of course, with the new superpowers that he has, he's able to kill Darius no problem. And then, of course, he sucks Darius dry, and further improving his powers. Although Darius is part of the demon that was in him earlier, and again, no ill side effects. Just all the benefit, none of the downside. It was really, really over the top convenient, and I did not like that. That was one of my biggest problems with the story. It was too convenient. I can deal with a lot of convenience, as I'm sure you realize by now, but that level of convenience is insulting, and I think the author can do better than that. I hope the author can do better than that, because the story itself is pretty good. It was just, I never thought that Jake was going to have a problem with Darius, just based off of the rest of the book. He hadn't had a problem with any problem that he ran into. He was able to just, circumvent all of them with relative ease with one of his many skills. But I thought that end fight was kind of garbage. I think he should have done a lot better than that. The fight should have been a lot more difficult, or at the very minimum, maybe even land on a cliffhanger where, since he was incapacitated with the super vampire blood, he was taken captive. Something that just really ate at me. So anyway, after killing Darius and draining him, which is kind of cool, don't get me wrong, he runs over to the back end of the building, because now, of course, cops and everything are showing up because there's been gunfire and everything. And, of course, a bunch of the cops and SWAT and firemen and stuff like that are under the payroll of Darius and stuff, because he runs this section of town, or he did before he got his head ripped off. They're all at the front of the building, right? Because, when cops show up to a scene like that, they don't bother to cover all the exits. So Jake is able to basically rappel down the side of the building. It took him 4 hours to scale without anybody seeing him, because he used the back way. And he's able to get away. and he returns to his hangar, sanctuary, whatever. And of course, Anton is there, and they talk about a bunch of stuff, and it's really cool. Anton gives him more of a wow. I've never met a half breed, not even somebody who's finished the whole vampire churning thing with 3 different demon types inside of him. You're something new. Again, he's the special forces blade, and they talk for a little bit and how they're going to go about their next what they're going to do next and everything. And obviously he's getting ready to finish off Darius to make this area vampire free, and of course he's got to worry about heavy hitters coming after him and Marcus because he insulted his honor and blah blah blah. You know how romantic vampires are. So it ends on that kind of I won't even say a cliffhanger. It ends on that high note because Anton is actually pretty cool. I'd like to learn more about him. He's his Obi-Wan, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it. He's going to be, his teacher, it seems. But I don't know. At this point, he's more powerful than most of the vampires he's encountered. And even if he did run into one, he seems to always have an ex machina to deal with it. So it's a little frustrating. It's a little convenient and stuff like that. But and again, the syntax and the grammar of the book it makes it a hard read, but the story, the overall story, and how it flows and everything like that is very enjoyable. I really did enjoy it. I had fun reading this book, and that's why I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I think if you like vampire books and are looking for something, I think this is definitely one of those little gems that you may enjoy. If you can get past the harder stuff, which is like the grammar and syntax problems, and of course the fact that Jake is Superman. But if you're just looking for a fun story to not take too serious, this is definitely a book worthy of your reading. Or if you just like vampire lore, or based off of Vampire Requiem, if you play that game and enjoy it in any way, shape, or form, you're going to enjoy this book. I can almost guarantee it. So yeah, 4 out of 5 solid stars, and honestly, I'm looking forward to book 2 because I am going to read it and review it because what the hell, right? So yeah, if you do check out the book, there'll be a link to it in the description below. It'll go right to his Amazon page. It was available on Kindle Unlimited, so I got it with my subscription, which was great. And yeah, I really think you guys will enjoy the book if this is the kind of genre and storyline that would appeal to you. Feel free to disagree with me, agree with me, hate me. I don't care. Throw it in the comment section. Let's have a debate. Let's have a discussion. Let's talk about it. I'm all for that. It's a big part of this channel. So by all means, throw it in the comment section. Let me know what you think. As always, though, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints, feel free to put them in the comment section below as well, because I will happily reply to them as quickly as I can. But that's going to do it for this one, guys. Really hope you enjoyed it. And as always, thanks.